We want some feedback from you, whether it's pro or con. If you look at that list and there's something on there that you don't think needs to be there, we want to hear that. If there's something that you think needs to be on that list, we want to hear that. If you think the whole list is unnecessary, we want to hear that. If you think you need many things, more than one on there, if you have 5 different things, we want to hear that. The whole thing is to get some input from you, because before anything can happen or proceed, if you guys don't give support to that, then there's no need to go any further, because the public is the one in the end, if it is a bond issue, that is what? You're the ones that are going to pay for it, if it does come to that. And if it doesn't, that's fine too. But that's the whole purpose of the meeting, is to get some feedback from you on at least these thoughts, and if that's not all of them, if there's something that needs to be added, then please do so. We have one small order of business that will take about 15 seconds on this meeting to approve a travel request. And then President Eport will kind of lay out a little bit of a time. You're each going to get so many minutes. I ask that you do come to the microphone. And we are filming this, and we're filming this for a reason. And the reason we're filming this is because we know that not everybody maybe was able to attend tonight. And we would like to be able to put that on the website so everyone can hear what your thoughts are, regardless if they're pro or con. We also ask you, if you want to, there's a sheet. Feel free to make comments at the bottom. If you need a writing instrument, there's pens and pencils back there. Before you leave tonight, if you put them in the box, I'd appreciate it. When you do address whatever it is you choose to address, you would come up here. That way the camera, like Tony, will be able to get you, so others will be able to see what you do have to say. Okay? And once again, I appreciate all of you coming. And with that, I think we're probably ready to start it. It's probably 7 o'clock. Thank you.
Call the meeting to order. Is a travel request returned?
It's a travel request for Marie to go to a FCCLA officers meeting, so to speak, and she wants to leave on December 7th. That's why it's on here. Our next regular meeting is until the 14th, and that needs to be approved by board policy. So if we have a motion to approve Marie's travel request.
I so move. I'll second. We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Opposed? That long? I couldn't see. All right, everybody hear me okay? I've always been told to have loud now, so get out of work. Before I read, what we have to read before, any patron forum, I just kind of wanted to echo what Mr. Turner said, from the board's, prospect of this. We want as much feedback as possible. We can sit up here and think of many things that we think we should do in this district. But ultimately, just like Mr. Turner said, it comes down to what our patrons are willing to support. And if you're not willing to support something, there's no sense in us trying to push forward and, either waste some contractor's time or, get stuff all upset and ruffled. And, we'll do what we can do. That's what it's gonna come down to anyway. So, and again, just like Mr. Turner said, please, anybody's thoughts, opinions, if there's something not on the list, we wanted to have some space, you need to turn it over and write something on the back, please do so. We want your input. We're going to have a meeting in Mona as well. We'll have one in Appenins. We're going to try to see, kind of where it goes from there. We may even have some more if we feel that we need to. Back out in the same respective areas to potentially give others, the chance to come out. If they could make it come. So please let us know what you guys are up for in our community. We will follow the same format as our regular board meetings, but what we'll try to do, so if somebody wants to address, and if there's a question you have, right, not just maybe a comment, we'll try to maybe answer that in between maybe the next person coming up, and we'll either have some giving comments as well, so we can try to have some dialogue and not just hear you guys talk and we adjourn and they'll leave. So, all right. When addressing the board, please be reminded that matters of a personal nature, which by their nature identify an individual, are prohibited by federal law and public discussions. please assist us in protecting the privacy rights of students and staff. Further, we advise that information or requests presented to the board at this time may be referred to the administration for further consideration or recommendation. The board will take no immediate action. When recognized by the board president, please state your name. For the board clerk, please limit your role statements to 3 minutes. So I'll move back. If anybody has something that they would like to say, please come up. We want to hear it. We truly do. Everybody come at once. We don't have numbers or anything, so it's all right. State your name, please, sir.
Chris Hassler. I'm a math teacher and athletic director at schools. Last time the whole bond issue came up, I wasn't a patron of the district. This last summer, my wife and I did move into the district, so now we have a little more vested interest. My main comment that I've got is that I know last time the community had an opportunity to voice their opinions and they felt like it wasn't heard. And so I really ask that we listen and that you guys listen and take into account what the community is saying. It is important. I don't know the last time they were heard. And I think that showed when the vote went on.
Thanks, Mr. Hassel. I'd like to just say something to that regard, and that's, last time when we had any public meeting, nobody asked the public, right? It was, hey, here's what we have, here's what we're going to try to push through. We are not doing that. That is not the intent. That's why we are truly here, to listen, right? And because it doesn't matter otherwise, what we want to try to do. We want the public's opinion. So I think it's a completely different approach to what was done before, because that's what needs to happen.
I'll touch on that also. More than anything, to echo what Rusty said, we want you guys to come up to this podium, and I know that it may be intimidating for some, and that may not be your thing. And if walking up here is an issue, raise your hand, we'll bring the mic to you. However we can open the dialogue, because we're not here saying this is the 2 types of bonds we want. We're not here saying this is what we want you to support. We're here asking, what do you guys want? And to start the conversation, we made this list, and that's purely what it was a conversation starter. Was to ask you guys, what do you think? What did we miss? And what's way off base? Something that's not on here that you might want to think about that would help lead us in the right direction is, how much extra are you willing to pay on your taxes? Are you willing to pay $10 a month that more than what you're paying now to help with the bond? Are you willing to pay $100? Is there a number somewhere in between? And that, if you jotted that number at the bottom, that could be helpful to us, because we could back into a number of what kind of a bond we can afford to do if that's what we're going to do. But we may not do anything. If there's not any support for or against, it's hard to gauge what the community wants. So please come up, tell us what you're thinking, and good, bad, or indifferent.
My name is Ely Sims. My question would be, number one, you said to leave the form in the back. This is the first time that I've seen the form. Can we send it in? Can we mail it in? I would like to take a little bit of time to think about it a little bit, I don't want to just gut reaction, start Xing things out, etc.
So everybody can hear. What Dealey wants to know is, do you have to fill this form out tonight and put it in the box? No, you do not. I just reminded Brenda before we started that if tomorrow somebody brings one in, or whenever you bring it in, you can bring it to Brenda. That would probably be the easiest for most of you, and then she can scan it, fax it to me, we'll see to it, the board members get to see it. Because whatever's here tonight, I will scan in tomorrow morning. I hope you can all hear me. I will just scan it in, email it out to them so they can look. But if we get one on Monday, because we didn't get it tonight, that's no big deal. You get it to me, I'll put it in the file, we'll scan it into a minute. All right? So if you put something down, it will be seen, and they will have an opportunity to look it over.
Thank you. I also noticed, just going through this, being on the Williamsburg end of it, I don't see any specific, and granted, I looked at this for 3.5 seconds, so I didn't see specific anything. Everything seems to be done at the high school, middle school. Is there something that is planned to be done or ideas to be done here at the Williamsburg campus?
That's kind of what I think.
Specific?
That's kind of what we're asking you folks, what you want to see, would like to see done.
Okay, but like on improvements of the buildings and stuff, there isn't anything that you guys know? I mean, and I will admit, I don't go to all the board meetings. I try to read the meeting minutes when I can, that kind of stuff. But, I mean, improvements on the facilities of what you guys know. I believe you have a site council that kind of tells you what this is failing and that is not, et cetera. But I don't see any of that either on Williamsburg or Avenues on this list. So, I'm not against a bond issue that's going to improve the facility, but I'm not seeing anything except for a marquee sign and a curb appeal, which that leads into my next question is, what is your definition of curb appeal? What, are you just talking to do, throw together a paint job, or are you talking, what is your definition of curb appeal?
But, on there are a couple things. One is repair and resurface the parking lots at Williamsburg and at Avenues, the marquees which you mentioned, and then repair and replace the air conditioner units at Williamsburg and at Avenues that are needed. At Avenues there are a lot more units than what there are here, but those would be the three things that I know of on the list specific to Williamsburg, but we're looking for other thoughts in addition to those three things.
The last thing that I would suggest, I know that what I've seen was just very recent, that this meeting was taking place. I know it does cost to send out to notify everybody in the district. We do have a very wide district. I get that. But I don't feel like that it was really advertised and informed of the meeting. I know the other two dates are to be determined, but my suggestion to you would be, as soon as you know those dates, maybe just a little postcard flyer or something to notify everybody of it, because everybody that I have spoke to today, are you going to the meeting tonight, didn't have a clue that it was going on. And so my opinion to you is the next two meetings. I mean, I get that you're having three, which I'm very thankful for, but if you could advertise it a little more, I know your Facebook page and website and all that, but you have a lot of people who don't on a regular basis get on that and aren't right here in each one of the communities very involved in that stuff, because they have jobs outside of the community. But that's my 2 cents. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
This is not too significant, but it also may be on another agenda concerning the windows in the building here. That has been discussed at a number of board meetings, and it was my understanding that that would have been taken care of this summer, but I guess the plans would change. So can you give me an idea of when those windows will be taken care of?
Are you talking about in reference to taking off the old insulation?
Yeah, getting that old stuff that looks
We got as
bad.
far as we could this summer, and then time ran out on it. The goal is to get that off as soon as we get time, which will probably be summer once again, not now. We keep pretty swamped with our maintenance guys, we have two, and when you cover as many campuses, it takes a lot of time, but that's the goal. And I think that what they did do, I think as far as I'm gonna call it repairs, but really what we did was took off, those was insulatory fasteners that we put on there for as near as I can tell. But when we took them off, we also had to structure around them so it wouldn't leak in. And I think that's working real well. Am I correct, Mr. Anshu? Do we have any leak problems in the ones that have been repaired? But the goal is to take them all off. That is the goal. Hopefully we can get that done next summer if time allows. But that is our goal.
Very good.
Good question. It does make a difference, doesn't it? The appearance is a lot.
You go ahead.
Hi, I'm Shannon Hassler, and married Chris, and school counselor at middle school and high school. Used to teach Williamsburg, love this district and this community, take a lot of pride in it. A couple of things I wanted to mention is one thing that I think might be confusing for Williamsburg and people who live in Williamsburg, Athens areas. They're not used to seeing West Franklin Elementary at Williamsburg notation. So maybe the next time this list is sent out, or the next time we structure this list for the community, it might be better to, instead of that notation, have that notation in parentheses or something. Since we're working with community members that don't have kids in the schools, or that haven't seen that in the past, that would make it easier for them to see those items that are designated for Williamsburg and for Athens, because I think that makes it hard for them to see it on this list, because there are things on here that I think we're trying to improve those two campuses, and that might get overlooked if they aren't used to seeing the WFEW and the WFEA notation. Another thing I had a question, there was one thing on the list is additional parking to the east side of the WFHS campus. And I'm just wondering where that parking would be. Are we talking the east side of the football field? Or are we talking kind of like where it is now, just to the east of the buildings? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Okay.
Some of the discussion that we've had is, stand up so maybe my voice will carry a little farther. So directly to the east, what is there, 13 acres?
Oh, yeah.
13? That's just directly to the east of the football field, right? So you have kind of that southern half that would be about even where the old gym is. Parking out in that area, right? Because some of the things on here potentially to either renovate the old gym for classrooms or to tear it down and make additional parking there. Because we're going to, if we do some of the other thing, it depends on what we do here, how far we would go and where we would need to go, just depending on what all we would do. Right, so if like the old wood shop and some of those buildings were tore down, and there was a gym to go in there, the old barn's tore down, now that's parking, you'd probably extend that parking onto the east of it. Things like that, but it just kind of depends on what we do as to how far we would go.
I was just curious, because, there needs two more parking there.
Yes.
It works there.
Yes.
But I was just curious where that would be located. So.
And then we even talked about, just kind of being on that, we even kind of talked about, so, because the way that ground is, it's wide to the south end, gets skinny kind of in the middle, and then it gets wide again on the north end, right? So potentially, and it depends on where we go, what we do, how many things we potentially do, there could be, in that north end of it, like a practice field, your field events for track, those types of things. So, we would utilize that property, for sure.
But I also just wanted to thank all of you for doing these meetings and for listening to the communities and taking this approach to it, because there are definitely some things working at the school system. There are definitely some things we need to do, schools to show the pride that the people that work there and the kids that go there, that they feel. I wanted to show to everybody. And right now we're working with some rundown situations, and I just really hope that we can get some improvements made and make it apply for everybody. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Shannon. Just real quickly, so everybody knows how this list was made, we were going to sit down and try to narrow the list down of what we thought would be the most important things, but then after further discussion, we're like, well, it doesn't matter what we think are the most important things. It matters what you guys think are the most important things. So what we did is we all just individually talked to, bounced off a few people that we knew in the community, and we brought all ideas down, and each turned in on the list, and they just put them all on here. So it wasn't something that we narrowed down, or it's just like Matt was saying, it's a conversation starter. This is what we heard from a few people that we talked to, plus what our thoughts are. And I guess I'll throw myself in the fire. I've been in the school district my whole life. And now as a board member, I mean, the thoughts have been with me the whole time, but now as a board member, I think for a long time we've been behind the curve, whether it be athletic facilities, whether it be at Williamsburg, or whether it be at Mum. Now, in my personal thoughts, do we need to try to keep up with the Joneses? I don't think so. It's unrealistic. But do we have to be so far behind the curve as far as facility-wise? So that's kind of why the conversation is being started. But essentially, like they have said numerous times, it's up to you guys. It's up to what you want. Do you think the same way? Do you think the opposite way? That's what we're trying to figure out.
Hey, Matt, I got one thing. We can hear you guys responding to or most of us back here heard nothing she said. No, we can't. With your speaker and stuff, please not know where it is. Why they don't know the side says it?
Bend it and turn it.
Okay, when you come up and you just put this, I'll recap real quick what Shannon said. If I'm wrong, Shannon, please let me know. One, she thought it might help if we denoted Williamsburg as Williamsburg Elementary as opposed to West Franklin Elementary at Williamsburg, WFEW, and also to do the same with Appaloosa because there could be people that aren't regular attendees, so to speak, that wouldn't understand the acronym. The other thing she said is she wants our schools to show pride, and she thinks that's very important, and I agree with her, but those are the two main points that she made. But from now on, I'll just leave this mic lay and if you guys can grab it. Does that help? Promise. Did I miss anything, Shannon?
No, oh yeah, parking on the east side.
Oh, the east side of the parking. 3 years ago, when I first got here, the school district had acquired 13 acres, which sets just to the east of the quote-unquote barn gym in Pomona. Everybody familiar with what I mean by the barn in Pomona? Okay, and there's 13 acres that sit on the east side. And she asked about parking, what we meant, or what was on the list referring to parking as to the east. And what Mr. Ecourt said was something to the effect of, depending upon if there's any buildings that are restructured, redone, or built new, that those 13 acres could become parking, additional parking, because I think we need some parking, is part of your comment, we do need some additional parking. So I hope that clarifies what Shannon said. I hope you don't mind me paraphrasing you, Shannon.
You said it a lot quicker than she did.
I'm not getting in the middle of that. Think your Myrtle stuck with me. Next.
All right, Jeff Lane. I didn't come here with the intention of saying anything, but most of you that know me know I can't help myself. I probably don't need a microphone. Is everybody agreeing to that? Fair enough. The first thing about the list that I'd like to mention is that I see very few things on there that are directly related to education. So please keep that in mind. Education is the focus. I am not totally convinced that parking lot coverings have anything to do with how well we learn. Just an opinion, but that's tonight was your asking my opinion. The second thing that I'd like to say is that when you choose to raise someone's taxes, be prepared to answer the question, how much is that going to mean? I was involved in some tax raising decisions several years ago. I asked people if I have a $2,000 a year house that I pay taxes on, what difference will that make to me? And the question could not be answered. Prepare yourself to answer that question and be good at math. Okay? That returns back to the idea of education. Let's be good at math, please. It's very important when people ask that question. The last thing that I'd like to say is that I know that sports and that parking lots and all of that are very important. I know that if this was an easy decision to make, it would be made and it would be taken care of. Please understand that you are in the position to make a decision that affects people for many years to come. And I'm going to use the three buildings that we talk about there, the VOAG building, the maintenance building, and the whatever building that were jammed in there in the past with absolutely no vision of the future. So if you choose to do something, if something is decided that we're going to build this, think about what 20 years, 30 years, 40 years is going to be. Building that cluster of temporary fixes right in the way of where we're at now is, in my opinion, one of the worst decisions made 20 years ago, when I don't even know the timeline there. You guys can help me out. But
I think they're in the 60s, those buildings. I think
You're talking about
not quite.
the wood shop and the metal shop?
Yeah, I can remember when the wood shop was built new, so it wasn't in the 60s. But and I'm old, but I ain't that old. But understand my thought. I mean, when you close a road, you make a decision forever. Okay, you can't ever access that area again. When you build a building, now we have to destroy, perhaps tear down buildings that are usable to build something that may be more usable. Maybe that's progress. But you're in the position to make decisions.
Time.
Really?
I'm up.
I think everybody got it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, he can have my 3 minutes.
But that's the feed, that's what we want. That's the dialogue we need, that's the dialogue we want.
You can have my 3 minutes.
his opinion, like.
Yeah. Take my 3 minutes. Yeah.
Okay, I'll finish. So, keep in mind, you are set in the position to make decisions that will be judged for the next 20, 30, 40 years. Take that to heart. Make the right decision. And the right decision may be bulldoze it down. I don't know if it is, but build it in the right place. Do the right thing. What's Williamsburg going to be 30 years from now? Does anybody here know? I have a good idea. It's not going to be smaller. Make that decision. Pomona's not going to be smaller. Make that decision that produces something that can be used for a longer term than that short-term gratification that we're so used to as Americans. That's all I have. Thank you. I just made this stuff up.
You know, just to add to that, when he says that it's not going to be smaller, I have to agree with him on that part of it. I mean, if you look at the job base that's coming into Gardner, the things that they're doing in Gardner, the new industrial park that's in Ottawa, I mean, this area should start growing hugely. Even, you know, I mean, you've got those people that don't want to live in the city that are going to come out to the rural areas. That's where all of this area should be growing in the future. I mean, I can't say that it's going to happen right away, but I would think that it's going to grow. That's absolutely right.
But to his point, that's why we're opening the conversation now. That's why we're not boom, boom, hey, let's get this thing done. Is so we can take people's input and weigh that. I mean, so that's why we are going about it this way.
Hello, my name is Tara Hubbard. I am a PE teacher at West Franklin Middle School and High School, as well as a cross-country coach. A few things, just after listening to a few things, I really wasn't planning on speaking, but mentioning about not a lot left or put down about education. And a lot of times the gym gets overlooked as an educational classroom, which is a big one. And there are times during the day where we have around 60 kids in PE all at one time. Now, between the two gyms, can we make it work? We have been. Is it the safest? Is it the most efficient? Absolutely not. Do we have kids getting hurt because there are too many kids in the gym? Yes, we do. Do we not play certain activities or learn certain skills because we don't have the space required of it? Yes, that happens on a daily basis. My lesson planning is based around what I have the space to use at that point in time during that day. So as far as education, the gym is important to our education. And I do know that there's a goal to make our athletic teams better. That starts in your physical education classrooms, and if I'm not able to teach throwing, I don't know how I'm going to be able to help out those sports that require a throwing element. So there's something with that. The other thing is I don't know what the population says about what this area, if it's growing or not growing, I don't know. I just know from personal experience that my generation of alumni are getting ready to start having kids in the school. I'm a new patron to the area. We just built a house out here. I have several friends who are having kids. My daughter's in kindergarten. I'll have 2 more coming up through the system. I have several friends that are alumni that actually have just recently, in the past year, bought houses in the district. They have been calling me going, should I send my kid to West Franklin or should we keep them in Ottawa? Because we're happy in Ottawa. The facilities are really nice. They're building a brand new elementary school. And it breaks my heart. I definitely say bring them to West Franklin because the teachers are great, the students are great, everything is great. Just don't look at the buildings too closely. And the other thing with that is there is an inside running joke, I guess I would say, that West Franklin in the past has been known to build things quick and cheap, not the right way. And when you were talking about those buildings that were thrown up in the wrong spot and the weight room gets water underneath the mats, and it's just, if we're gonna do it, let's do it right. I know not everybody is in the financial position where they can have their taxes raised a significant amount, but let's ask around and make sure that they know exactly how much they can, and let's build it the way. Thanks.
I just came up here so I could hear. Oh, I can hear here. I couldn't hear for some reason.
You gotta keep luring on it.
They go with other ones. My name is Matt Renzigover. I'm an assistant principal at the middle school and high school. My wife also teaches in the district. I look at this from a standpoint, and I agree that we need to look at what is best for the district 20 or 30 years from now and start planning for that. One of the biggest issues that we have that I hear, that I've heard every year since I've been here, and that we continually put money in, are things like our air conditioning units that are failing every day, it seems like. We need to take care of that. And it needs to be done at all 3 campuses. I hear things about we need to look at safety. You know, while you may not be able to relate parking lots to education, it is a safety issue. Having a number of activities come into our school in Pomona every day, I get to talk to people from just about every place, every school that comes in. And one of the biggest things that is said is, I wish we would do something with our parking lots, because it is a safety issue. As people get older, it's harder to move around, and that is a problem. And there are poles out there, and there are issues with drainage that we need to address to take care of that. Another part of this that goes along with safety that I believe that we need to look at is the bus loading and unloading at the middle school and high school. And while I can't speak for either Avenues or Williamsburg, that may be an issue here. I'm afraid someday with how we have our setup, something's going to happen where somebody's not paying attention and there's going to be a student that does get hit. And I would like to see, as part of the design from the last bond issue, maybe looking at putting a parking lot on the north side of the current middle school and bringing all the buses through there and kind of having that away from that intersection. So the people, when they drop their kids off, have to pull into the parking lot and not just pull up to the street so the kids are running all over the place. Another issue that I would like to see addressed is the areas, specifically at the middle school and high school, and that is our career and technical education fields. We have a number of areas that I think we need to update, and a bond issue can help us do that. One of the issues, if I had to say, let's do it right, that west parking lot, I would like to get rid of and make that a green spot, but also put in a new ag shop and a new woods facility construction and allow, sorry.
Go ahead and finish.
Thank you, Mr. Pete.
Look up again, I'm not going to stand up. Have you had any engineering or surveying done to determine whether or not, if you get an 8-lane track, it will fit into the same area as the track is now? Or are you going to have to do some moving of bleachers or press box? Has that been considered?
I want to try to give you what I'm not going to tell you I do know, okay? And to say yes would be inaccurate. What I understand, and I can't even remember who told me this, that the current track was designed as a 6-lane track, mainly on the curves and on the east side, all right? So if you put an 8-lane track in, you would have to move stuff. I'm just guessing, but it would probably have to go to the east. But before the board spends money to find out exactly how much would have to be moved and pay an engineering firm to come into that, we kind of wanted to find out. That's the purpose of this meeting. Is there even any interest in that before we go spending money? You know, I'm going to expand a little bit on what Mr. Brinzenkofer was leading up to, I think. But I sit there every day and watch our BOAG kids walk across the highway, and I just sit there and hope, like, you know what, that they are paying attention so we do not become somebody's bumper ornament. That gets a little spooky when you look at it from our perspective. We tell you we'll take care of your kids and do what we can to keep them safe, and then we have to cross the highway every day. Likewise, I'll flip that over to when we have guests come, whether it be a volleyball game or a basketball game, and they park in that west parking lot, you know, and some of them are elderly and some of them do not walk as well as they did when they were 20, 30, and 40 years old. And, you know, that's loose gravel, there's chuck holes in it, we've tried to repair them, but it's not always safe either. Not just for the kids, but for their grandparents and parents and the respective visitors that we ask to come. You know, that gets a little bit unsafe as well. But that's just a couple of my thoughts. I'll back off. But I really, to answer you, we really don't have it engineered, and I'm not going to recommend, that's just me, to spend the money until we find out it's something the patrons are even interested in.
And just so you guys know, we've had that conversation about what's education. Our primary goal is to educate when you start talking about wood shop or metal shop, people are like, well, that's not reading, writing, or arithmetic. That has nothing to do with education, but I think it does. And I don't have stats in front of me, but I'm betting your kids that are out for athletics have a tendency to do better in school. Or even house building. There was a time I'm sure that someone would have said house building. That has nothing to do with education. Well, sure it does. That teaches the kids some practical skills. It teaches them common sense. It teaches them a lot. So I understand what you're saying, and we've had that conversation as a board. Education, education. That's our primary goal, is to educate kids. But it does all tie together. And unfortunately, for your sports, those are high-cost items. That's where the money's at. So that's what we're trying to figure out. Where's that balancing point? Do we want to be way behind the curve like we've always been? I understand. That's the questions we're asking. It's a lot of money, but that's what we're trying to get a feel for.
In regard to what you said, quite a number of years ago, they did a study and they discovered that those people who participate in activities did better in their grades than those that didn't. So that's been justified and verified. Not recently, I don't think, but...
No. To expand upon that, if you don't mind, Mr. Coffey, that's an ongoing study. What you just talked about, that is an ongoing study year to year put together by the Kansas State High School Activities Association, which shows that any activity, be it athletic or be it FCCLA, FBLA, FFA, quiz bowl, band, you name it, any extracurricular activity that students are involved in,
Statistics show that they do better academically if they're involved in something in extracurricular.
so that's been going on year after year after year. They just add to the study.
Sure did that. I played all sports in the coach.
I concur the same thing, Mr. Howard.
I want to expand on what Jeff said a little while ago about your items here. I was one of the first ones in today. I sat down and had coffee and looked over the sheet and didn't know what it was. Talked over it with the superintendent. And as I looked it over, I saw a real bias to your questionnaire. Granted, it's just stuff you threw out, but it shows mindset. We recently had an election where everybody knew the election was going to go one way until it didn't. And the excuse was, well, they just didn't, it was one East Coast, West Coast, they didn't understand the people. Okay. We had a big controversy recently in the whole district about passing bonds and so on. We've had controversy about moving high schools from one site to the other. But what I've noticed over that whole time is a continued bias in the boards. And the boards differ. This isn't the board to be except for this one. But it seems like we couldn't make ourselves at this part of the district understood. And it took an election, a sound defeat, an election to make, and they didn't expect it. I know they didn't. But it took that sound defeat to make the old board understand, and the superintendent, that they weren't talking the language of the people that were here and voting. And as I look at this sheet, I see there were 23 items. You counted them up while I was drinking coffee. One might have been an educational item. One, Jeff. That's numbers. And that was one you made stretch it. Invest in better internet series or services, more bandwidth and better speed. Not how that's going to help education. Not any explanation of that. Just, well, bias, I'm going to address for a second. In addressing bias, I see on one major cost factor. A lot of them are costly, but there's one big one there. And again, it's right back to the same thing we addressed in the last election. You want to have a bond election to build a new gym, okay? Or a new track, or this.
Time.
I'd like to see a board that was actually working to improve education. I know you think you are, and I know you're working a lot of time doing it, but, I mean, what has it been, 15 years? We've been doing the same thing? When do we fight for the change in the high school? And we watched that go. We watched it go from, okay, the science teacher made a trip back and forth, and then all of a sudden, it wasn't the science teacher making the trip, it was the students. So the students from this district had extra time on the road going and coming. They didn't have access to the chemistry teacher after school or before school. And so what happened? This district at that time, we're all one district, I'm sorry. This part of the district was taught in the state sports card, report card for performance in the sciences. It was one of the highest in the state. And then when we've combined them, either we lost the edge, it took more time to study or do something, but we hurt those kids because what happened? The Pomona-Williamsburg combination plummeted down to the level of Pomona, which was not too good. If you look at that, it's historical. So what I see us doing here again is going through the same routine we did last time in a different way. Wouldn't it be nice to have a new gym at Pomona? Wouldn't it be nice to have better parking? Wouldn't it be nice to do that? And most of this stuff's at Pomona. And that's okay. I mean, that's where most of your students are now. Okay? And there's a lot of controversy about closing the grade school here now again. A comment was made earlier about let's plan for the future. Well, let's face it, people. The future of this county is probably one main school. We're talking 15, 25 years from now. It's the history of our state. It's what's happened. We went from small little township schools to district schools, to consolidated district schools, and we're going, so let's not build a very expensive building if you really think that in the next 10 years, we might be consolidated, okay? Again, those are some of the things. I want to point out that of the 23 items on this list, 15 of them pertain to Pomona, okay? 2 of them, half of them are to Pomona and half of them to Williamsburg. 6 of them, a third of it is part of Williamsburg shared with the other 2 sites, okay? In other words, 5/8 of the items on here are exclusively Pomona. And a lot of those are tear downs and build ups or construct new buildings, etc. So before you go too much farther, step back. Oh, one more comment. You mentioned, sir, Wayne? Sorry, you mentioned, well, we talk to people. I wonder who you talk to. There's a tendency for any group to talk to people who talk to them and who are available. Now, did you talk, I mean, what was the percentage of Pomona, Appaloosa, and Williamsburg people that you talked to? People that you happen to encounter?
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, that's generally what it is.
Busy life like anybody else,
Yeah, and you might examine whether that was a representative sample of your district.
I'm just telling you, that's how we compiled the list.
Yeah. And
that's
that's
what we're saying here
understandable.
tonight.
That's what, it's like a poll, isn't it? And guys, those work all the time. Okay? We had a bunch of polls that said we were going to have a different political setup here, and it didn't go that way. Okay? So if you talk to people, make sure your sample is not representative of the people that you deal with, but people of the whole district. Okay? Sorry.
Sir, that's what this meeting is to talk to this part of the district.
But yet,
This is just a conversation.
I agree. That's what you tried to do. All right.
That's what
I'll
we're
give you
doing.
credit for that. I'll give you credit for that. But, at I look at the list,
I understand.
okay, extremely biased for one attendance center in one town.
Please add your,
Well, yeah,
like to
yeah.
see here.
But the problem is, we went through an experience here in the last few years where that same approach was made to us. And I mean, there are other people here that went through that same time. I don't see many faces, totally, but not here now. But first, we were presented with some plans. And then it was obvious which plan was a failure. And then when that plan was soundly defeated by this type of survey, doggone if it didn't turn up in another way. And the results were biased. And then when they admitted the results were biased, we kept telling them, you know, this is, the figures that you're giving us are not right. Again, reject. And they weren't right. And so they were soundly defeated because people aren't stupid. Now, I think I give you your good motivation. You wouldn't be serving. I don't serve. It's a thankless job. But I had, what was it, 3 minutes? I probably took 20.
Thanks for your input.
Yeah.
I know it's
Use the mic.
I know I already spoke before, but I wanted to maybe speak some things that maybe weren't heard before because I've been facing the other direction and my sultry, poor voice today. But I just wanted to point out one thing that I had said before was I taught here at Williamsburg, and I was here at Williamsburg when the first issue started. And I agree that that was not handled well, and I think most everybody here agrees with that. You know, the communities were not listened to. My husband and I, until recently, we did live in Ottawa, but we've always felt more attached to this community and to this district, which is why we finally, when we found a house that fit with us, we moved into the district this summer. And we're thrilled to be finally an official part of the community. I just wanted to point out a few things that I noticed about the list. If you count item by item and go by total items, it does look slanted, but a lot of those items are the same type of thing reworded. Whether it's because, you know, how the parking lot, where the parking lots will be, or how the gym will be, or what is torn down and what is renovated or what is not. It's not necessarily that there's 20 items just for the Pomona campus. And I really want to encourage Williamsburg community members to come and talk, because I think that you're tired of listening to people say, I teach at Pomona, and I work here, and I am this person, and I work on this campus. And you're hearing mostly from people who work in Pomona right now. And I'm just telling you that I feel you. I think my kids have gone to this school, and I love this school, and we chose this school when we didn't live in the district. And when people say things that need to happen at Pomona, it's not because they're trying to take away from this community. They're trying to look at what these kids will be going to. My kids went to Williamsburg Elementary for years, and it broke my heart to think about the fact that what they're going to is not as good as what they could have if we could work together as a district, as opposed to counting off on a list. This many things are going to help me, and this many are not. It's all about the kids and where they're going. And all of the kids in our district are starting in one spot and going to Pomona. So just keep that in mind when you're making decisions. Thank you.
Thanks, Shannon.
Laura Fisher.
parents. I very much agree with what Shannon said. You know, my kids went K through 5 here. Ultimately, they do go to Pomona, so that's where it ends up. The middle school and the high school are at Pomona, therefore that's where you start your sports. That's where the gymnasiums, the tracks, those kinds of things come into play, you know. As far as the education aspect, completely agree with that. But having a high schooler who's a sophomore and an 8th grader, I can't even help them with their homework because it's all on the computer. I asked my son when he wants me to help him with history, Mom, I have this test. Well, where's your history book? We don't have one. It's in the computer. This internet, it's a big deal, okay? What we did when we went to school, I remember Mrs. Coppock telling me my freshman year, you can use one source on this research paper, and it's from that thing called the internet. One source. That is all our children do now. It's the internet. My son, who's a sophomore, I have to continually remind him, did you email that to your teacher? Did you send that assignment to your teacher? He gets 0 sometimes when I check PowerSchool, and it's not because he hasn't done his work, it's because he doesn't hit the send button. I'm so confused when he gets out that Chromebook and talks about what he has to do. I'm behind. I have no idea. I can't help him. So the internet's a huge part of it, and I think that's where our education is now. It's in the internet. So I think that's a huge thing. The other thing is once like you said, the middle school and high school, that's where it comes into play, is the gymnasium and the track. I would love to see a track that our kids, we could host a track meet at. I would love to see a track that our kids could, you know, competitively practice and work towards their goals in those sports. As far as, you know, the whole new gymnasium, I don't know. I'm just saying, yes, I agree with Shannon. The whole aspect of it does look like there's more at Pomona, but ultimately that's where they end up. That's where they finish out. I'm thankful for my education that I got at Williamsburg, and being in all 3 of these schools that I get to go to, I think our teaching staff is wonderful. I have no complaints. My kids going here, going to the middle school, going to the high school, some of the teachers and the staff were in high school with me. So I think that we have great teachers. I just think that, let's face it guys, technology is here and we have to be up and running. We have to be with it. So, and along with that comes cosmetic aspects of it too. If everybody believes that Pomona and Williamsburg are going to grow, I'm taking my extra time because everybody else did. If everybody truly believes that these communities are going to expand and they're going to get bigger, then we have to make the curb appeal a little better. Not saying we have to do every single thing, but we have to draw the community. We have to draw people to our communities. And when they drive through little towns, sometimes that's appealing to others. Other people drive through and say, there is no way in hell I'm living here. You know, to each his own. But I just think we need to maybe think about those aspects too, that a curb appeal is kind of a big deal. Okay? That's all I've got.
Thanks, Laura. Thanks, Laura Fisher.
And I'd take a whole new health room with a lot more stuff.
And trust me, I wouldn't take 3 minutes to go and watch the football game. Rick Howard, I want to thank you guys for the way you're doing this, Wayne, because I think the board turnout is a lot of because the last time we went through this, the impression was gave to this area that it really didn't matter what we had to say. They had what they wanted to do. They were going to do it on the last time we went through the bond issue type thing. And I think a lot of people, trust me, if you go to the coffee shop in the morning, you'll hear a lot more opinion, and a lot of those aren't here tonight to express it. Anyway, so I do appreciate you doing it this way. A couple quick things I just want to bring up. And a lot of these I know, the track, the gym, that's the big money, as it's already been said. But the things I want to bring up is a couple, for instance, fixed water drainage on the north end at the West Franklin High School. There's another one down here, market parking lot for safer parking and so forth. The air conditioners in Williamsburg. This takes a bond issue to do this stuff. This looks like maintenance stuff. Why would we not fix air conditioners too loud? I know money's tight. I know all about that. But there's a lot of stuff on here that looks like this is just simple maintenance. Why do we have a drainage problem? That's not fixed when we have the problem, and we have to look at a bond issue to do that. There's a lot of stuff, parking lots. I mean, a lot of this stuff looks like maintenance that should have been fixed over the years when they break. And now we just let stuff go, and then we come out here with a bond issue to fix this stuff. It almost appears like we're throwing this stuff in there too, but we're gonna hit this gymnasium or whatever along with it as we get it. See what I'm saying? I mean,
We've had this conversation, that's why I'm responding or reacting the way we did.
and that's just, there's several things on there that, like I said, appears to me like stuff that, I know that the gym, the track, and I know what it says, and my kids went to Williamsburg, and I know we need to keep up. If I had kids going to West Franklin, I'd probably feel different. But addressing the all-surface track, a lot of state champions came off dirt tracks over the years. But I know you don't want your kids out competing on dirt tracks when everybody around you has different tracks and so forth, and I understand that for it. My main thing was just the question I had, why wasn't a lot of this stuff like air conditioners, parking lots, drainage not fixed when it needed fixed?
Mr. Harris, can I answer that? Part of that with the air conditioners, a lot of those air conditioners are, say out of avenues, are all put in at the same time the building was built. We have been fixing those as they go back. But we know that one of these times, we may have 10 of them go down, or we may have, depending on the summer. Again, we had an estimate to fix those air conditioners, just to come in and replace the air conditioners, because if we go out there and fix 25% of them, or replace 25% of them, how do we know which ones were going to go bad and which ones weren't? I think the price on that was $780,000. So that's a pretty big ticket item, just for air conditioners at one place. And that's why we've been fixing those as they break down, as we have trouble. So we do have that money to fix those, but that's often a big ticket item just to go in there and go, here, we're going to fix them all in one shot. And I guess that's part of the reason where we're at now is that if you look at it, $750,000 or $780,000 to fix those is a large chunk of money. So I think that's part of the reason we put that on there.
And we do,
I hope that makes sense.
It does.
we do, and this is not just for Rick, it's for everybody, but we do go through each and every one of our outdoor units prior to the start of school, and maintenance, so to speak. We have a pro come in and look them over. If something needs to be replaced, it's belts, it's fans, whatever, and they lube them, clean them, etc., which we think is helping a little bit so they're not falling as fast. But even right down here, I think I've replaced 2 or 3 of them. Where's Mr. Anshoes? But I think I've replaced 2 or 3 air conditioner units just since this year started. As far as the drainage problem on the north end of the 200 building, it's slowed down. We haven't stopped it. And part of the reason we haven't stopped it yet is because if we are going to do a parking lot, I don't want to divert the water. I spend the money to divert the water, and then I realize, whoops, I got to redo that project because we found out that we want a parking lot to go with it. What we have done is slowed it down immensely, but we still haven't completely fixed the project until we decide, okay, are we going to put in a parking lot or not? Because if we do, then that's going to change how that gets diverted in the system that does divert that. Does that make sense? That's a planning issue.
I won't take any more time, but those are just the things I had. I do want to thank you for doing it this way. Hopefully you do, but it does seem like you care what we have to say this time. So.
Thank you. Just little bitty things, guys. Fellas, man, house building, go ag, woodworking, don't get me wrong. I know that's important and that's education, okay? And I know sports is part of it too. I'm not telling you to do anything. I'm telling you to think about what we're doing. Okay, all that aside, I got one thing I want to talk about, and that's communication. How many people saw Mr. Turner speak on Facebook? Okay? Did everybody see the raise of hands? Everybody thinks that we communicate in today's world with all these fancy things, and we I really think we're probably worse at communication in today's world with all these fancy things. I have some pretty deep thoughts about this, okay? How many West Franklin sites are there on Facebook? Does anybody know? Take a shot at it. Does anybody want to prove me a liar?
Well, we have
27. 27. If you search Facebook and you look for West Franklin information, 27 things come up. I think I'm right. I hope I'm wrong. If I'm half wrong, there's too many. This has been brought up at the site council. Is anybody tracking where I'm going with this? It's tough for the average internet person to find out information. I can't find out when my kid is getting out of practice or going to be at practice or when a picture is going to be taken or something of that nature. I don't know if you have the power to shut down everything and say this is the one. For God's sakes, read this one because this is where the information's at. But something, in my opinion, needs to be done. I know some of you sat here, heard my sister talk about this and didn't hear it completely. I'm going to finish. For those of you who look to the internet for information, it is not that clear to the average Joe to go out there and search Facebook or wherever to get that information. You know, the note home in the planner isn't a bad policy. All right, we've gotten away from that too. I don't have the answer, I have questions for you. Okay? Communication is the key, period. Cooperation after we communicate is the second thing. And I'm gonna bring to point the Williamsburg Rec, the city of Williamsburg, and some of my own enterprises here. We've done some good things, okay? But we've sat down and cooperated. So communicate and cooperate. And after that, I think our potential's completely endless after that point. Communicate and cooperate.
Yes, sir.
A second ago, you were talking about air conditioners, and that's been an issue for a long time. They go bad, you gotta replace them. But you just said, what, 750,000 for avenues? Okay, and what are you gonna do? You're gonna go in and replace them? Think about it. Think about it. Plan it.
No, sir, we're not. That was an estimate that was given to us.
But you wouldn't have gotten the estimate if you hadn't been thinking about it, right?
That was an estimate that kind of come into us, I think, on back at the last bond issue.
Spend the money if you want to, that's fine, because you need to. But you're setting yourself up for a problem in the future. Because if you replace all those at the same time, guess what's going to happen in 10 years or 20 years? You're going to be right back to where you are, but it's going to be all at once.
That's
all
all
that's
we're
going to
about.
And then you're going to have to come up with another 750,000. Sit back and examine whether maybe you're better off to take that money and have a fund and let those things run as long as they can. And spread out so you get it back on maintenance. It is a maintenance cost. And it should be done on a yearly basis for those who fail. But if you replace them all at once, whether they need it or not, it's time. Got to replace them. Well, then in 10 years, you're going to have another big bill coming out. And you don't have enough money in the budget for maintenance. So think about that.
And we have, just to answer to what you're saying, any of the new ones that have been put in over the past, 4 or 5 years, no, those would not be replaced because it wouldn't make sense to. Because you're right, we'd be exactly in the same situation we're in right now because we're all put in there at the same time. So, no, you're right. It would be, some of those we know which ones are newer, which ones are. Anything newer, would not be replaced because it wouldn't make sense to.
And actually, we have it listed that way. It says AC units in both elementaries as needed.
Yeah, good.
Is what one of our board members, I don't know which one of them, and that's what we
Communications,
discussed.
it didn't seem like that's what you were talking about.
But that's how we have it listed, and that's actually what we have been doing at this point. When they break down, if there's X number of dollars, I make that call whether or not it's worth to repair it or replace it with a new one. So the last 3 years anyway, since I've been here.
Can I say something quick?
Sure.
reserves are good. We have the reserves to do a lot of maintenance, and we have the reserves to do a lot of things that are on this list. But if we use our reserves and do those things, and then the funding, say, wouldn't come in on a timely basis because the state overestimates or underestimates, then we have an issue. So there is a cushion that we need to keep. But we also still have money in reserves that we can spend on a lot of these things, like the air conditioners. Somebody had mentioned something to me the other day. I don't remember the name of the building on the corner over here. I don't know if it was the wood shop or what it used to be, but that they would like to see that building torn down because they felt like it was falling down anyways, and put in the greenhouse there that we have out of the farm. We can afford to do that. That doesn't need, so there are things that can be done at the Williamsburg campus like that we have the money to do. But we don't have the money to do them and then be cash poor. It's just not a good way to operate. And but those things are things that we want written down on here as far as for the improvements that you want. But I want to be really clear that we do have reserves to do a lot of the things that are on here. And we're willing to use those reserves to do those things, but we have to think ahead on things like, we had someone fall in the parking lot of Pomona about a year ago on their way to their vehicle. The person fell, and there was an injury that was a result of that. Could we have gotten sued as a result of that? Yes. Did we? No. So is the parking lot something that needs to be addressed? Probably. We addressed handicap parking here at the Williamsburg campus. The handicap parking used to be out by the front in the road. You can't even get in that anymore because of the way that that's washed out. So here recently, we came in and we put in a concrete pad over here on this side, right over here. We marked it that it was handicapped. And so the maintenance things have, since I've been on the board over the last 3 years, have started to be addressed, and things are improving. There's been roof improvements. There's been a lot of things that you don't see that we have spent money on. For instance, the handicap parking. And we could work in cooperation with the city and fix what used to be handicap parking out front and make that look better. I mean, right now it's just a pad with a poor entrance into it that you can't get into. So there's a lot of things that we can afford to do, but like that front piece out there. But we can't afford to do all of those things district-wide and still have the cash reserves there to make sure that Mrs. Hubbard and Mrs. Hassler and Mrs. Fisher get their paycheck if the state doesn't come through with our funding whenever it's supposed to come through. So I just wanted to make sure that everybody understands we're willing to participate. We're not saying, here's a list and we need you guys to pay for everything on it. That's not the case at all. Here's a list. There's some things that we can afford to do. There's some things that aren't on here that we can afford to do. But there's some things on here that we can't afford to do. That's where I see that is.
And as far as those reserves and the education aspect, because education is first, that's what we've been spending that stuff on. That's why the kids all have their own personal Chromebooks or whatever they call them, their own personal computers. Is because that's where our money's being spent. This stuff you see on the list, a lot of the reason you're seeing what you're seeing is because we're spending the district money we have now on the education portion. If we have a class that needs special attention, we have the leeway with our cushion to split that class up, bring in another teacher, do what we need to do for the education part of it. And I'll be honest, I think I went to 2 board meetings before I got on the board. It's not a lot of fun to sit through a board meeting as just a spectator. But I never realized that the state could tell you they're going to give you this amount of money and then not give you anywhere near that amount of money. So you're setting up a budget on what the state's telling you they're going to send you. They don't have to send you that amount of money, and a lot of times they don't. So to run it as a good business, in my opinion, you've got to leave a certain amount of cushion, or you don't want to ride that edge, or you can't do the necessary education things as they come up.
And I don't want to get into politics very quick, I just want to make one statement. Today's December 1st, and the state budget office comes out with where they're at financially. Right now, if you look at the papers tomorrow morning, if you make it in today, we're $345 million short. And 2 years ago, it was my first year here, they hit us for $380,000 less than we were supposed to get. So when you look at our reserves and you think, okay, $380,000, that's over $250,000, and it may look like we have $2 or $3 million there, but we're not real sure we're going to get all our money this year. Okay? I'd like to think we will, but when you're $345 million short, it's got to come somewhere. Somewhere they're going to cut something. Hope it's not education.
Does anybody else have anything?
I just have one question.
Yes,
What
sir.
effect is this expanding the whole computers availability going to have on our system in 2018? It was just in the
Oh,
paper.
superhighway?
Superhighway, yeah.
Depending upon what the superhighway can bring right now, and Tony, help me if I'm wrong, but just a year or two ago, we spent around $70,000 and more than doubled, I think, our signal. Our signal for all of our kids at the elementaries, be it Williamsburg or Athens, doesn't matter. I call it gets zapped, but it's sent through the air. Sean, am I right? Kind of get the microwave, Tony? Zap.
Radio.
Anyway, we basically doubled that. I know I'm not the most technological person. I'm good at chatting, but that's about it. Anyhow, we spent $70,000 to make that speed faster. And tell me something, has it helped teachers at the elementaries or not? Is it better now than it was 2 years ago? Or is it worse?
It's better.
Better. Okay. And it's the same thing at the other end, it's better than it was. So the superhighway may or may not help us depending upon what that fiber line feeding into Pomona, if it can be better or not. And you won't know until they come through and do their analysis. That's the latest thing. You're on top of things, Mr. Coppy. Good deal.
Will that double our capacity?
Depending upon what it can do. See, I don't know what our existing line can handle, and I don't know if there's more room to it. You know, am I right, John, Tony? That's what they're talking. Am I close? That's why I get techies to come and explain those things.
Mr. Coppin, you can get whatever you can pay for.
Yeah, that's true.
I can say this, is it went from beamed, we used to beam it out, now it's zapped, now we're zapping. So, just trying to just change around a little bit, I think.
Whatever it is, it gets here.
Does anybody have anything?
I just want to address something Mr. Turner said. He was talking about numbers, about how much money you're down in the school district, the state, and so forth. And I know some of the counties suffer the same way. We're down money from what the state used to give. John would say the same thing. City of Williamsburg's down some money from what they're used to. And you made the comment, and you're not wrong, that the money, got to come from somewhere. The problem is, with all of us, where does the money going to come from? The taxpayers. And there's got to be a point where the taxpayers are getting tapped out too. I guess that's why a lot of people are here. And, I know it's not your fault, it does have to come from somewhere. And we're in the same boat, John's in the same boat. But there's got to be a point where sometime, hopefully the state steps up and says, you know what, the taxpayers have done enough, we got to get this somewhere else. That's a lot of people's concern is how much more can we keep on.
And we've had that conversation also hey, everybody's getting tapped a little bit at a time here, whether it be sales taxes, whether it be property taxes on ag land, whether it be property taxes on your house. So that's what these conversations are all about. It all rolls into this whole conversation we're trying to have.
Yeah, and right, and county and everybody, and somewhat the city, I don't affects the school as much, but right when we think we're trying to get it back out, good, they put the tax rate on us. So, I mean,
No, I understand.
where it's going.
Yeah, because you're limited by the last legislative session. You can only go so high. We are too. We can only go so high with our LLP. Any other?
No, it's all right. I'm just gonna ask the same thing. If anybody else had anything, then
Is there a projected date for the other meetings to be coming out, or just kind of because of the holidays? And
that's
things like-
why we pushed it back. We were originally gonna maybe push this one back, and thought we could at least get one in before the holidays. So hopefully they're early in January. We, you know, and maybe by our December board, we can be looking at the calendar, which that'll be next week, or 2 weeks. 2 weeks, that we'll try to look at that meeting and try to set up some projected. And I hope everybody caught it earlier. This might not be the only time we're here, right? Depends on feedback, things we get, right? So I foresee it. We haven't really talked about it as a board. I foresee it as, you know, maybe we have another one, and it's got a lot of the items that you all, if you give us that feedback and you put them on there, so now the list is screwed, right? Hey, these are things that the community said. Would you support what your neighbor thinks we should do? Whether they're new ideas, same ideas, you know, those types of things to kind of keep you updated on where everybody is thinking, right? So, I mean, that was kind of my thought. I don't know. I was just going to throw it out at our next meeting, but it came up. So, because again, it's going to go back to the communication and the cooperation. I agree with you wholeheartedly, Jeff. So, the more of that where we can keep you informed, the better off we'll all be.
Go talk to your people at the coffee shop and bring this back the next time if we have another meeting. That's what it's gonna take.
By the way, the sheet at the coffee shop is how I found out this meeting was tonight.
Okay.
That's the minute.
That will be something else that, right, and that came up more than once, right? So that's a definite note that we can improve upon to get more communication out there, keep everybody informed better. So that's something we need to do better before we have the next one. So.
I know I send them out to every student at school. Granted, some kids don't take papers home, and I know I make copies for the businesses here in town, and we try to get the word out.
And we thank you, Brenda.
Absolutely.
But I mean, it was put in the coffee shop, the post office, the senior citizen, the elevator, the library. I'm sorry if somebody didn't get them or whatever, but and I know they went home with the kids. Granted, there's probably some in somebody's locker still.
Or could still be in
And
their
then
book
those parents
bag.
say, oh, pull out the stuff out of the book bag, it goes on the counter, I'll look at it later. Tomorrow they'll see it. But they were sent out.
And sending home notes to middle school and high school kids.
Exactly.
No.
It doesn't happen.
Very few of them get home. Elementary kids are better about it, but middle school and high school.
We did a study.
It doesn't work.
You're an old teacher, you know, it doesn't much sense. I did not intentionally advertise this in the Ottawa paper, and I did that for, and this is no offense, but it cost X number of dollars to put it there, and I knew we were putting out flyers in the community, and I know that Matt put it on the Facebook pages, and I know we had it on the website, school website, and maybe I should have spent the money to put it in the Ottawa paper, but I know that school reach. I try to keep school reach for emergencies. If we're going to call off school, or if there's an emergency because we ran out of water, God forbid if there's ever an emergency of safety issues, but I try to keep that for that. We used it a time or two before, but I don't want to start abusing that, because even then we get, not very many, but we still get phone calls, probably about 5% we get several phone calls if we put out a message. I'm not going to say hundreds because that'd be wrong, but I try to keep school reach for that. I'm sorry, man.
Last time Nancy got
50 calls on the school reach message.
Oh, we got a message from you.
If you're not going to advertise this in the newspaper, how do you expect to reach all of the taxpayers
that don't have children. to go
Like I
to
said, I
school.
might have made a mistake there. I was trying to save money doing that.
Well, I
Reaching
understand,
it.
but we need to reach out to as many
Yeah.
taxpayers in this district as we possibly can.
And I don't disagree with that.
Going off of that, you gotta realize where does all the arrows go? It goes to Wellsville, it goes to Athens, it goes to here. You know, it goes all over it. And you're not gonna be specifically looking for a small little ad in the back of the arrow. You know, no fault to the arrow, but
No, they do what we asked them to do.
no, but I mean, just really think about it. Is it really worth your money to advertise it in the arrow for a little write-up?